9/11, September the 11th, 2001, I was attending a security conference, believe it or not, in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We had left that Sunday to fly out to Denver. Then we got a rental car and drove up to Cheyenne. I think it was a Sunday. Then that Monday, we went out to Francis E. Warren Air Force Base, and they was on alert, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. So we called back to Camp Murray to see if there was anything going on, and they said no, someone had stolen a M48 and a couple of M16s out of the missile field at Francis E. Warren Air Force Base. So that next morning, we was going downstairs to our conference, and someone came and reported while we was eating breakfast that they had a small light plane that just flew into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. And they said, okay, probably was an accident. So we continued eating breakfast, and then about a half hour later, we got the word that a jumbo jet had flew into the South Tower, and they did not believe now that that was an accident. We believed that it was a terrorist act. So needless to say, the instructor who was supposed to be giving us the class, they flew him out back to D.C. in a couple of hours. So the class was over with. They closed all the airports down. We was at Denver. So they said for you to get back home, you're going to have to drive a rental car. So we drove back to Seattle. I believe it was that Thursday, and we got back that Friday. Then when I got back here, security was paramount. We was in 12-hour shifts. All the money we could handle was coming our way because everybody didn't know what to do. Something like this had never happened. The traffic was beyond belief trying to get into the bases. And we started immediately. I think the first thing we did for security enhancements is to put a fence up, because our fence was very shabby and had a lot of holes in it. So that's when we started enhancing security. We had additional security, National Guardsmen augmenting the security force, because at that time we wasn't armed yet. So they were armed, so we had to rely on them at the gates and so forth. And security now will never ever be the same again, thanks to Osama bin Laden.
So at that moment, I still was in Vietnam. I'm sitting in a room with my dad, my sister, my brother to watch the TV. And then right away, looked like they stopped that. I don't remember what I'm watching at that moment. And then they show something like have smoke on the TV, and they're talking about something wrong happened in the United States. And then at that moment, because my sister Hannah, the oldest one here in United States, and then right away not right away, about 15 or 20 minutes later, look like, because they translate, like they said the news, okay, they speak in Vietnamese, I said, okay, that's what happened. And even though that time I still don't know where's my sister, where she lives. So I'm thinking, so we don't know like very far from my sister's house to that or not. So that moment I still don't know. So and then I think about half an hour or a few days, I don't remember exactly. My sister did call us and said, okay, I'm safe, and that's very far from my house. So that's how you know. But I see that moment, boom, in front of me, on the TV show with the smoke, the building, and then so that's what I know.
9/11 was 12 years ago. I was actually stationed in the Middle East in Bahrain, a naval base. I was TDY down in Dubai, and coming back I think it was a Friday, got local time about 3 o'clock, came in, checked in with my command, they let me go home for the day, went back to my flat, which was just off base. My buddy lived next door. About an hour later, he just beating on my door. I didn't have a TV at the time, so he said, hey, you gotta check this out. We watched the whole thing over there, very intense. Went on base, since it was a naval base, there were Marines there who were QRF. They were locked and loaded, everything was just intense. We went from ThreatCom Alpha to Delta, did that for 6 months.
I was assigned to the 10th Civil Support Team. And at the time, it was I was just got on my uniform and I was heading into work, and it was about 6 o'clock in the morning. So I actually saw the on TV the first pictures of the impacts of the trade towers, and then as I was coming in, I heard on the radio that the second trade tower was hit. I think the biggest thing that impacted me was just the people that were going to be impacted by such an event. I mean, we've been to war. I've been to war since '91. We've been fighting enemies since then, and it was just instantaneously was the impacts that it was going to have on all the families, the co-workers, the friends, and then the first responders that were going to respond, just because I was associated with the 10 CST, and then all the training that we had with local responders, first responders. So that was immediately where my thoughts went. And then, of course, just prayers out to the family for what they were going to go through in the aftermath of the event. But no one knew that the trade towers were going to entirely collapse. So I think that was something that caught a lot of people by surprise, of the devastation that happened because of that event.